of our live series called as Feedback Fridays. If you're joining us for the first time, this is a live series that we're doing where singers from our community and our students send in their singing snippets of videos or audio, and I give them free feedback. So this happens every Friday at 5 p.m. So make sure to join in every week. So there are a few guidelines. If you haven't submitted the video to us yet and you would like to get some feedback, you can go to the description below and you'll find a form where you can fill that up with all the necessary details and link a video or audio file, and your chance would come eventually, right? Okay, and there are some general guidelines for this which we will probably be talking about at the end of this live, so make sure to stick around. So today, as usual, we have 5 other people to give feedback to, and all of these videos have been chosen by my team. So even I'm listening to these for the first time, so I'll be as surprised as you guys are. So the first 5 videos were real fun to do. So this is session number 6. If you've submitted to us before, and maybe if your video hasn't, you've missed any of the videos before, go and watch. Maybe yours has gotten feedback already as well. And try to avoid double submissions. Cool. Now let's start off. The first one is Nishita Jain from Chhattisgarh. So let's take a listen to Nishita. चांद सा तू जो मुझ में चमकने लगा, रहूं तेरे पास में, बन तेरा एहसास में, यार जी लूं तेरी हर सांस में, शाम सा तू ढलता, तू सुबह सा है निकलता, तेरे साए में चलता, मैं हूँ साथ तेरे, मैं हूँ साथ तेरे, है यही इरादा, तुझे चाहूं खुद से ज्यादा, दिल से है ये वादा, मैं हूँ साथ तेरे, मैं हूँ साथ तेरे, मैं हूँ साथ तेरे, मैं हूँ साथ तेरे. That was really nice. Thank you so much, Nishita, for sending that across. Firstly, the room reverb was really nice, so that added an extra character to your performance, the reverberation in the room. Okay, so firstly, you have a beautiful voice. It's very, very soothing. I could listen to you sing for a long, long time. So that is a great skill that you already possess. Your voice is very listener friendly. So that's a great skill. And the second one is that melodically and pitch wise, you're pretty much spot on. There are not too many mistakes that I could find. Maybe just when you sang that na 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 na. Sorry, I don't know this song, so I'm just trying to hum the melody. So there, I think once or twice there was a slight variation in pitch. I think you were a bit flat, but then you caught on pretty immediately. So no issues with that. That's completely acceptable. Okay, so now coming to feedback wise, as I said, pitching, if you're finding any issues, I've mentioned this a lot of times before, maybe refer to our live videos as well. We do a Monday live session, the Beginners Western Vocals course. You can go and have a look at that. And some pitching exercises that you could do is use an instrument like a guitar or a keyboard, or maybe use a Perfect Piano app and try to match those notes. So that is a great pitching exercise. And secondly, I saw that you were sort of giving yourself a rhythm on the table, but it wasn't actually sticking to the beat because you were focusing on your singing, and which is the right thing to do, because I don't want you to focus on playing some other instrument or sort of giving yourself the beat or the rhythm when you're singing. Your focus must completely be on the singing, the melody, and the lyric, right? So instead of this, you could use a metronome, which is the click track, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that will make you stick to rhythm, because here what I observed was from section to section you were slightly going slower or faster, which can be avoided if you're not trying to give yourself the beat and you use a metronome track, right? But the thing I liked is you did not use earphones with the original song's reference. I sort of tell all the students in general not to do that, because you get confused with the original singer's pitch and the rhythm. Maybe you might need to take a breath. So those are things which you can keep in mind.
And lastly, one more thing I can suggest is your voice has that classic, a bit of that retro sound, but also in current Bollywood or playback singing, the type of voices, the sweet voices of maybe the lead female actress. You have that sort of a voice. You could definitely look at that style if you didn't know what style to pursue, more than like a singer songwriter or like fronting a band or something. This the film genre, especially melodic, softer songs like this, would definitely fit your style. And lastly, but don't limit yourself to that, right? So I would definitely recommend you to try out a few more variations. Maybe take a song sung by Shilpa Rao, which would probably suit your voice a lot. But maybe again, on the flip side, take a song from someone like Lata Mangeshkar ji or a Neha Kakkar, whose all of their resonances and how bright their voices are and how piercing it is, all of these are different, right? Some are very husky and light, which will suit your voice, but there are other cases where it's more upfront and head on, right? So there you'll need a lot more nasal resonance and a bit more of your head voice, and you need to push that voice through. So maybe take such songs like Neha Kakkar or someone like that, where you can push and that bright resonance is heard in your voice. I would love to listen to such songs in your voice as well. But apart from that, great job. I could hear a bit of noise in the back. Try to record it in a closed room where there's not too much noise. The reverb actually added to your voice though, but I would like to hear maybe another version of this with just your complete raw voice without the room playing any part in it. But then again, loved the performance and thank you so much for sending this across. Let's move on, guys. So, the second submission this week is Sumit Kumar from Nagpur, Maharashtra. So, let's listen to Sumit.
ऐसा लगा मुझे पहली दफा तन्हा मैं हो गई यारा हूँ परेशान सी मैं अब ये कहने के लिए तू जरूरी सा है मुझको जिंदा रहने के लिए ओ तू जरूरी सा है मुझको जिंदा रहने के लिए.
Okay, so thank you, Sumit, for sending that across. Right off the bat, I want to give a couple of guidelines right now because I came across Sumit's submission. So, firstly, guys, try to send in a video and not audio. So, Sumit's is just an audio file where I cannot see the physical aspects of his singing, right? So, if I'm seeing someone is straining in their throat, someone is trying to push more than necessary, I can see that only physically. But here with just an audio, I might not be able to. If you're comfortable, do send in a video. That's just a soft guideline. Secondly, the length was about 35 seconds long. I would at least like for you to guys send about 50 seconds to a minute. A minute is what we recommend so that I can see different parts of the song and I can listen to it and I can give you the relevant feedback, right? And the last thing, if you heard it, it was definitely done through an app which added effects to his voice. It wasn't too much here. It was mainly the echo delay sort of an effect and maybe extreme reverb and delay. So that is something which I would ask you guys to sort of avoid. Send in a raw performance which will not affect the quality of your original voice, right? Okay, now that the guidelines are done, let's go to the feedback part. So Sumit, your voice, I could not hear the natural texture of it, so I can't talk too much about that. But the performance was pretty convincing. There were quite a few issues which we will tackle, but the emotion sort of got through with this performance. So now I'll tell you how to improve on this. Firstly, as I mentioned, try not to use any effects, get a raw performance, let it be authentic, let it be filled with the right emotions. Now coming to the actual technical aspects. Firstly, in a lot of places I heard the pitch was flat or you weren't singing exactly in tune, right? So for that, I can definitely recommend either refer to a karaoke track and try to sing along with the original song. If your pitch is lower, sing it at a lower pitch. First, get the correct notes. like like whatever the structure of the notes arrangement is, get that first, and then maybe try to use an instrument or an app to sort of steady your pitch, right? So play a note, try to match it, play another note, try to match it. So only then will you get that confidence that you can sort of match any pitch. Okay, that's the first thing. Secondly, what I want to talk about is a bit of the breath control and the rhythm aspect. So these are usually intertwined. Rhythmically, I felt at some places you were slowing down, some places you were going fast. As I've mentioned before, use a metronome or a click track which just goes 1, 2, 3, 4 in the correct tempo of the song, and try to sing along with that. So that would help, or even a karaoke track would help for that matter. And yeah, the second thing is with your breathing, it seems like you don't know exactly where to take the breath. So we did the breathing topic and breath control exercises we covered in our recent live videos in the beginners Western vocals course. So please go refer to that. There I've mentioned that your breathing should be through your diaphragm, right? You must feel your stomach and diaphragm area expand when you take a breath, and where you take a breath when you're singing has to be related to the punctuation. Say for example, you see a comma in the lyric, you see a full stop. So those are places where you can take a breath, right? So now I need a breath after covering so much. Okay, let's continue. So that is very, very important. If there is space after each line, take a longer breath. If there's not much space, it's very rhythmic and choppy, take shorter breaths in between wherever you think it can work for you, right? And yeah, apart from pitching, time, and the breathing, the last thing I want to talk to you about is probably your voice techniques and the vocal culture. So I can hear that your voice is pretty untrained now. You may be just a hobbyist singer, just singing for your happiness. That's perfectly fine. But you want to get training done, so that would help you give your best performance, right? So with your voice. So what I would recommend is do quite a bit of warm-ups. We have covered all of these in our channel. You can go, we have a lot of videos related to this. We have lip trills, we have breathing exercises, we have the yaya exercise, and we have a lot of body warm-ups as well. So you can refer to that. And especially the lip trills is going to help you, the vocal fry as well. And maybe you can use these warm-ups to sort of get in shape before you start singing. And then what you can do is develop a few range exercises, right? You will find those on our channel or all around YouTube. You will have a lot of these range building exercises where there'll be a scale, and then you go to the higher note, and you keep going higher and higher until you have that switch. You have a switch from maybe to a. So there'll be a point from when I'm sliding up, there's a point where the chest voice, which was sort of closed and bright, that sort of switched to that lighter sort of a sound. This is what we call the falsetto. So you can experiment with all of these things while trying to sing these songs as well. Maybe try to push your voice without straining your throat. Push your air upwards when you're singing. Don't push down towards your voice box. When you're singing, this is going to create a lot of cracks. But if I sing, where I'm pushing air upwards, and you hear a bit of that nasal sound, right? So that is what we are looking for. That's healthy singing technique. So that's my feedback to you. Hope that helps. Thank you so much for your submission. Now let's move on. I have Sakshi Patni from Sangamner, Maharashtra. So let's take a listen to Sakshi now.
ओ करम खुदाया है तुझ मैंने जो पाया है तुझ पे मर के ही तो मुझे जीना आया है ओ तेरे संग यारा खुश रंग बहारा मैं तेरा हो जाऊं जो तू कर दे इशारा ओ तेरे संग यारा खुश रंग बहारा मैं तेरा हो जाऊं जो तू कर दे इशारा.
Great, Sakshi. Thank you so much for sending that across. Again, this was a slightly short video, but I could get an understanding of your voice and your singing technique from this. Okay, firstly, I want to tell you that you have a very pleasant voice, and that is probably the most important characteristic for a singer who wants to be heard by others, right? So your voice is very pleasant, and you do have good control, even though many parts of the video or audio did not showcase this. I'll tell you why in a bit, but I can sense that you have the understanding of the control of your voice, especially with respect to the harkats or the vibrato parts, where na 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 na, that sort of those melody lines which had those variations, you sort of nailed it pretty well. So that is definitely a positive. Now, coming to the feedback I can give you to improve on certain aspects. So first thing I would say is you were overly conscious in this video. So this is why sending videos is important, guys. So you were sort of looking left and right and you were trying to sing. So you weren't completely focused on the tune or the melody or even the rhythm of it for that matter. So what I would recommend is try not to get distracted by this. This is just a hobby and this is something that gives you happiness, right? So try not to focus too much on the technicalities right now. Sing because you want to sing. So you have a really nice voice, so if you give a convincing performance, I'm sure a lot of people would like it. So firstly, your body language, so maybe you can do a bit of body warm-ups, your shoulder drops, your neck exercises, and just a few feet and leg exercises like a few squats or just moving your feet around, rotating, just like how sports people warm up. You can warm up as well, do a few lip drills, calm yourself down, do a bit of breathing, deep breathing. I think that will get you ready for the performance. That's first. And second, again, because of this, probably your when you started off, I could not feel the right emotion, right? Even though your voice is pleasant, you were just trying to hit the notes correctly, where you also fell flat. The pitching in the first part, in the verse section, was a bit flat. Later on it improved a lot, but in the first initial section it was a bit flat. So you need to focus on firstly hitting the right notes or pitches, and secondly doing it in a convincing way, right? So the performance should be believable to the listener. The emotion has to be injected in it. So those two things were a bit lacking, and your pitching you can definitely improve by the same exercises that I mentioned already for the past two videos, which is use an instrument, use an app, get a hold of it. For beat, use a karaoke track or just a metronome or a click track and try to sing on beat, right? So that it'll naturally also improve your breathing. Okay. And lastly, your range, again, it was pretty flat in this, where I could not make out too much of variation in the range, I'm saying. So from a low pitch to a high pitch and vice versa. So maybe try a few songs like that where you can challenge yourself, but make sure you're warmed up and you're relaxed before you do. Otherwise, again, it'll fall flat in terms of both pitch, emotion, and the rhythm. The final tip I can also add to this is try to use a reference, if it's a karaoke, whatever it is, in your original key, or even just a Shruti box app or an actual box which gives you the key, right? So it just gives you the drone note which classical musicians use. You can maybe use that and start practicing with that so that your pitching improves compared to what it is now. Otherwise, I think you have all the potential to be a really good singer. So yeah, I'm looking forward to your progress. Thank you so much for sending this across, Sakshi. Now let's move on to our fourth submission, which is Snehal K from Nashik, Maharashtra. So this is the third submission out of 4 already from Maharashtra. I've just played a little over a minute of this performance because the whole video is more than 3 minutes long. So Snehal, thank you so much for sending this across. It's very impressive that you can play the guitar and sing along. It's a very nice song choice. I also like the texture of your voice. It's a bit husky, and it's sort of rarer in female voices to hear this sort of a voice. So that's very nice. I could sense that maybe you were on the lower spectrum as of now. Maybe you're an alto or an untrained alto at least. Alto is the lowest female range there is. Okay, now coming to the feedback. Firstly, I want to tell you that I know you are playing the guitar, which is very good. I recommend people to use that as reference for pitch. But there are two ways to go about it. Instead of doing the full strumming where you have to split your attention and focus between your singing and the guitar, I would say just strum the opening chord, keep the guitar aside and sing. That would be the best way to take a pitch reference and then do your own thing. If not, if you feel like you need the guitar throughout, maybe just play the chord. Play one chord, sing, and when the next line comes, just play. So don't keep strumming it. Maybe just do one strum each, and then you can continue singing. So that might help you. The reason I'm saying this is your first feedback is because you were playing with an instrument, the timing was pretty much spot on. But yeah, you can still practice with an instrument and a click track. That never goes wrong. Secondly, the pitch is where there were most issues, the pitching and the range. Okay, so pitch wise, especially after the main chorus or the mukhada, I hope I'm right, and all four have been Hindi songs today as well, so I must say mukhada and antara. So yeah, the mukhada part was sort of okay, and then again, especially when you were slightly sliding up to the higher notes, and even when you sang the other part, which I think was the antara, there was quite a bit of flat notes. So you need to, even with the guitar, if you're hitting them flat, you must train your ears to sort of hear where you're going wrong. So that is why I said strum it once and then sing and compare yourself to the original song as well. So that will definitely help you because you play an instrument already, you don't need to use an app, right? So pitching is one thing. Secondly, the range, right? So, and I said I really like the texture of your voice. It has that husky, whispery quality to it. I can't think of any Bollywood singer right now, but the best example I can give you is of Billie Eilish, who is one of my favorite new pop stars. So a bit of her aesthetic I can hear in your voice, but it also completely depends on the genre, right? So it fits that sort of lo-fi bedroom pop that she does, but this is a out and out Bollywood song, right? And even I have heard this song. It's a very famous one. So for this, maybe you need to work a bit on how you are singing, how you're projecting, and your range. The whole way it was letting out so much air. Firstly, you will run out of breath, and secondly, the other thing that sort of happens is you can't push with that sort of a texture to higher pitches. So I would say try sort of projecting with different styles of singers. I know I keep giving the same example, but maybe if you are singing English, maybe try to project like Dua Lipa does. Maybe try to project like someone like a Taylor Swift does. Or in Bollywood, someone like a Neha Kakkar, who has that piercing bright tone, right? As soon as you hear it, you know, oh, it is her. So that is what I want you to try. Maybe instead of the husky tone, na 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 na, more of that closed solid feel to your singing would probably help. And when you're going to the higher notes, don't hesitate, either flip or that is called falsetto, right? Either flip to your light airy falsetto sound, or if you don't want to flip, try pushing your air upwards. See how much you can extend your range, because I'm 100% sure your range can be extended because you're singing in just one style or one texture now. Experiment a bit. There is full falsetto, and there is more of a closed that sort of a closed solid sound. Or maybe there's that breaking where you're adding these inflections. So there are a lot of ways to sing. Maybe you should experiment with those and work on your pitching and your range. And of course, a bit of the breathing, pitching and rhythm part, timing, which I tell to everyone to work on. So yeah, I think you have a lot of potential. So please keep working on it. Thank you so much for the submission, Snehal. Okay, so now let's move on to the fifth and final submission for the week. This is Dilip Patra from Kolkata, West Bengal. So let's take a listen to Dilip now.
मुसाफिर हूँ यारो,
Wow.
ना घर है ना ठिकाना, मुसाफिर हूँ यारो, ना घर है ना ठिकाना, मुझे चलते जाना है, बस चलते जाना। मुसाफिर हूँ यारो, ना घर है ना ठिकाना, मुझे चलते जाना है, बस चलते जाना।
Okay, so that was about a minute of Dilip singing. Thank you so much for sending that across, Dilip. That was a wonderful performance. Firstly, you have such a sweet voice, such a really, really enticing voice. So I loved listening to you sing. It was a 2 minute video. I wish I could have played the whole thing. I will go and listen to the whole performance after the live. But yeah, that's one thing. Secondly, it's so convincing, your voice and your delivery. You are feeling the song, firstly, which is the most important for a singer to do. And secondly, you're able to convey the same to the listener, right? So that is probably the most underrated skill that beginner singers rated the least, because they think of all the techniques and pitching and scales and all of that, and they forget that the main essence of a song is to make the listener feel something. And it was spot on in your performance, so kudos for that. Your voice is great, you have great control, and emotional aspect is 10 on 10, right? So that's amazing positives first off. So what I mean by control is all those harkats, all those, the way you're controlling the vibrato, the harkats and all of that is really, really good. So that means you have a very strong understanding of pitch. So pitch wise, I don't have any feedback to give you. Just a suggestion would be to sort of do sing along with a metronome track, a click track, or a karaoke track, right? So that would help. Even if your key is lower than the original, there are softwares where you can lower the key of the karaoke and sing along with it. That's the first one. And the second and third suggestions, mainly more than feedback, would be to first focus on other textures as well. I've told it to a few other singers. You have that nice soothing sort of a voice, but maybe what if you try to sing a song from Rock On, right? Or what if you say your voice sort of fits the vibe where Sonu Nigam sir sings, like that sort of a vibe I'm talking about. So maybe what if you take a song which someone like, as I mentioned, Himesh Reshamaya sings, or Arijit Singh sings, or some song from Rock On which has that grit to the voice. Try and experiment with your voice so that you can push the limits. Now coming to the one and only feedback aspect of it, apart from trying to keep a beat reference, is your range, right? So one thing that I noticed here is you were playing it safe. You started off low, and I don't think the whole melody crossed more than half or 3/4 of an octave. So the sweet spot, so this is what we call the tessitura. The tessitura is the half to 1 octave range in your whole vocal range where your voice sounds the best, right? I think you've figured out to a T what your tessitura is, but now what I want you to do is try to maybe experiment with a bit lower and especially a bit higher, because when you go high, you will try to have all of these where maybe purposeful cracks, or na na na, where that more resonant, heady sort of a voice with a bit more of that nasal texture, or even like a rocky oh, that grit and gravel in your voice. Maybe try those out, and maybe even when you're singing low, try to sing one with that whispery Hey, oh, 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 there, and maybe one with more of that bass baritone closed voice. Oh, yeah. So you can try experimenting with all of these techniques and figure out what works, because the last thing you would want to be is to be a one dimensional singer, right? There's nothing wrong with that, but especially in India, the most lucrative industry or the most happening industry is the film industry, and singers aspire to sing in movies, right? And unless like there are specific voices which have stuck to specific songs, say for example Arman Malik sticks to just mainly romantic songs. He has done a few others, but mainly, right? So but ideally the most successful singers are those who can tackle different types of songs. So your voice has all the potential and more to do this, so please try experimenting and try to push your range. And if you don't know how to push your range, there are range building exercises. Don't hesitate to flip to your falsetto like I've mentioned before, and also push your air upwards, so where more of that nasal resonance is heard. It's completely fine. You hear it in all singers, from Himesh Reshmiya who probably overdoes it a little bit, but that's his style, that's what sets him apart. Even to Arijit Singh, even to Sonu Nigam ji, for example, and even in the West, everyone does it, from Justin Bieber to Billy Joe Armstrong of Green Day. So everyone uses that nasal resonance as and when it is required. Okay, so don't hesitate to use that. Okay, guys, so that's it for today's Feedback Friday session. This has been a really, really fun session with all styles and all sorts of people sending in their entry. Last week was pretty much at one level. Today we had a lot of peaks and troughs. Like, this is what keeps me excited to do these sessions. Hope all of you take the feedback in the right way and work on it. And if you do record newer songs, any language, but preferably if you can do an English song, I can give you better feedback as well, because today all 5 were pretty much Hindi. No worries. So yeah, that's pretty much it for today's session. Thank you so much for attending, and thank you so much for submitting. And for those of you who are asking how you could submit your video or audio, as I've mentioned, head to the description, fill the form, submit a link with your video or audio. Video is preferred because I can see the physical aspects of your singing, and also keep it to about 1 minute long, preferably English, but any language will work as well. And lastly, don't use any effects like reverb, auto-tune, compression. Let it be a raw performance, but in a closed room where there's not too much background noise, right? Okay, guys, so keep singing, keep practicing. I'll see you next Friday for the next feedback.